Today's guest, a very special one. It is Marshall Sandman. Marshall is the managing partner of Animal Capital. Animal Capital, Marshall Sandman, Josh Richards, and Michael Gruen, and the rest of the Sway House was featured in a Vanity Fair article this week, and they were blasted all over social media, on newspapers, online, wherever you could read stuff. They were there this week to blast out Animal Capital. I talked to Marshall about all of that. And I also talked about a little bit more about Marshall and who he is and what he's done in the business industry and how he's gotten to where he is today. Talked about who's his idol, who he looked up to, and a bunch more in this interview. So why don't you sit back, relax, take a listen to this interview right now. Today's guests, we don't got athletes, we don't got broadcasters, we have straight up badass businessman. It's Marshall Sandman. The guy has been breaking news left and right. He was just in a Vanity Fair article. Marshall, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Taylor, thank you so much for having me. I have to say, early on, I'm already pretty offended. I did manage the basketball team at Cornell. Does that not make me? Am I not Mike Trout because I was just a manager? I feel like I was a part of the team.
I apologize. Yes.
It's okay. I think we've got a long interview. I think we're gonna find a way through it.
Yes, I really hope so because I'm sweating here because I can't mess things up over here. So let's start off. I got the Vanity Fair article right here. I've done my research, tape and highlighter and all. The tweet that caught my eye when I was doing my research with you, I first met you on Clubhouse in some rooms, and I was like, and then I heard you an interview with you on Clubhouse. I'm like, I got to interview this guy. Michael Gruen, who I think everyone knows is a successful kid, which blows my mind how old he is, and he's absolutely kicking ass. He tweets out on March 21st, 2021 at 11 p.m., 11:40. Big announcement this week. We're making moves and changing the landscape for digital talent going forward.
Yeah, changing it forever.
When I saw that, I DM'd you and I said, "What is this about?" And he's like, "Just wait until the interview." And I said, "Okay." This Vanity Fair article comes out. Some big stuff here. Animal Capital, man. Tell me about it. Tell me how exciting everything is. I want you to sell me on Animal Capital.
I have to say, I appreciate you because you've been flexible about this interview, and I wanted it to be I wanted you to be our first interview after the announcement, and you're in the leagues today with CNN and Bloomberg, where we've got a couple other interviews today. So you're playing in the big leagues today where you belong.
Wow, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, Vanity Fair is something that we're totally thrilled about. I think that there are other awesome creator funds. There are other interesting investment vehicles that partner with celebrities. I'm thinking about Mantis Ventures with the Chainsmokers. I'm thinking about Logan Paul's rolling fund he launched. Kygo's guys, the Palm Tree Crew. They don't have a formal fund, but it's like a big SPV. And then it sort of ranges up to other people that you think of in a different way, like an Ashton Kutcher with Sound Ventures or a Jay-Z with Marcy Partners. What we're doing is different than all of those things. And the one I missed mentioning, I didn't mean to, was Reed and Ezra Cooperstein and Mr. Beast's Night Media Fund. We're different and we're built different. And I think that being in Vanity Fair demonstrates that right from the get-go. The tone of that article made me laugh. Bill was an awesome person to have interview me because he was a banker for, I think, 17 years. And he was hammering me, like absolutely crushing me during the interview. And the tone of the article came off like, I really wanted these kids to F up, but they didn't. And they're really doing something special. We want to show people that talent being a part of the venture capital ecosystem is a couple of things. Number one, first and foremost, like put it on my tombstone. Talent being in venture is not just a social media post. We're not just a CPM and driving a $25 CPM off of Instagram or off of a podcast or something. the brands and the licensing deals and the distribution deals and the interconnectivity of the brands that we're able to put our founders in touch with to affect the outcome. And we can't force or make these businesses successful. We can put them in positions to succeed, but it's unprecedented. And to have people like Griffin, like Josh, like Noah Beck, like Michael, and Michael's obviously a totally different breed of human being, but to have them not just want to like throw their name against something or commit to a certain number of social posts for a certain amount of carrying the fund, but want to get on the phone with founders and want to affect outcomes it's unbelievable. And for me, I just feel really, really, really lucky that they sort of chose me to go on this journey with them and to sort of, pull me into the captain's seat.
It's really interesting because the TikTok generation, right? There was the Vine generation, which was sort of like our start of it. Then there was the YouTube generation, and now there's the TikTok generation. And how I think everybody's initial reaction to Vine stars and YouTube stars were like, these are kids that really don't have a career and they're just trying to pass the time. And then we absolutely look, I'll say it. I was one of those people that said, what are these people doing? Why aren't they doing real jobs? Early on when I was in high school and college. And now they're millionaires acting, doing, having their own social shows on social media. And now the next generation is TikTok. And with the Sway House, which I would say 9 times out of 10, people are looking at these kids as maybe either spoiled or they're maybe, the nicest word, maybe a tool, and it's just, they're not looked at as the future of, business. And Josh Richards and yourself are leading the pack with Michael Gruen as well and the rest of the Sway House and absolutely destroying that narrative, which I think is very interesting because I remember listening and seeing who the Sway House kids were a year ago. The only thing they were doing was rattling up millions of views on TikTok. That was it.
Yeah.
And now they're
I mean, I think
making deals.
Listen, I think Michael's tweet said it all, right? Like you can't say that. Like you can say that and people can feel that way. I think those people are jealous and
right.
they're spoiled or tools. And listen, like they are good looking kids that will take their shirts off and do fun dances on Instagram and TikTok and everywhere else. But the reality is it's so much, this is so much more than that. And the way that I like to explain it and the way that I said it when I met Josh and the guys was, look at some of the, and I don't want to name names because a lot of times these are people that are in our lives, but there are a lot of people that you and I can sit here and name in our life that we followed their Facebook group page or we followed them on Twitter and we looked at their Vine and they're gone now. And the way I see it is it's a closing window, right? Like you're going to be famous for some period of time and get brand deals for some period of time. And yeah, maybe they'll still get brand deals in 10 years just because of the sheer volume of followers, but they're not going to be 6-digit brand deals. And what we're doing, not just with the venture fund, but with the companies that we're incubating, Annie Energy is one really good one. And we have a couple more that we're going to announce just in the next couple of months. But we're driving a broom into that window and we're sticking a broom in and wedging that window open and saying, we're here, like, listen to us, pay attention to us. We're going to run the business. We're not just going to be the front facing part of the business. We're going to be the operators of the business. We're going to be the paid media strategists of the business. We're going to be the distribution arm of the business. We're going to have meetings. I've had meetings with Josh and Griffin and co-packers at factories to talk about margin expansion. Because what we want, the Tomio says, yeah, maybe the guys don't want to be on TikTok for 10 more years. Maybe they don't. And I don't know. I think that they love the platform and they'll be on it as long as they're having fun with it. These businesses are built to last for longer than that. And what's even better than that, they're going to set great examples for the people that come behind them and help, honestly, king and queen make, right? They're going to be the biggest stars that come behind them for whatever the next platform is. And for a minute, we thought it was Clubhouse, TBD. It could be Mark Cuban's Fireside. It could be a number of other things. Right. They're going to call me and they're going to call Josh and they're going to call Gruen. They're definitely going to call Gruen, probably call Gruen first and say, help me. Like, let's get involved and let's do this together. And then we're going to, and that's what's going to make the guys successful. And it's there. I like to call it impact investing for profit, right? they're going to change the lives of not just creators, but the consumers and the founders for some of these businesses in a really positive way.
It's very interesting you said it that way because, a lot of the times when I'm either interviewing with somebody or I talk to somebody in general, I always like looking and comparing things to maybe sports, right? You see
Me too.
now, right, right. It makes the conversation flow. And now
Mhm.
my example is here, like you're seeing a lot of athletes now knowing that they're just more than a athlete. They can go into business. I mean, the guy, look at LeBron James, right? He is doing everything he possibly can. He's making more money, almost more money, outside of basketball.
Whoa, he's making way more money
Way
outside of
more.
basketball.
Right. He's making, I mean, Nike deals like $1 billion. So like he's making more money and then the movie deals, whatever. But what I'm seeing here is that Josh Richards and the rest of the Sway guys are looking at a point. Look, like you said, they might not want to be TikTok stars for the rest of their lives. So they're looking at other avenues and they're moving the needle. They're moving the next generation of creators, which is exactly what you said. And I find that so interesting that you're seeing a lot of that in athletics and now you're seeing it on the social media content creating side led by
Yeah.
you guys. And I think that's a
So
great move.
so you're hitting on a really awesome point, which you probably know. So we had a conversation right before we made the formal decision to launch the fund about doing the fund, with Rich Kleiman, who, I mean, anyone that listens to you probably knows who Rich Kleiman is. And
That's
when
one
I
of your
tell you,
idols,
I've
right?
been
That's one of your idols, right?
my idol.
I would love
When
to talk about that in a second. Yeah.
So we could come back to how I feel. I feel pretty strongly about Rich, and my phone call with him. But we were on the phone with him, and he was explaining, Kevin's business and the sort of pie and matrix that makes up his business. And I said, listen, Rich, like the difference in what Kevin does and what we do is if Kevin promotes a water brand or a protein brand or a apparel brand that is a venture backed thing, a new company, seed, Series A, etc., and it doesn't go well, and he dropped $250,000 on it and it disappears. He's going to make $30 million a year on the court. He's going to make $50 million a year from a sponsorships off the court. You're going to make him a bunch of other money. We don't have that opportunity. That's not the same. The opportunity cost when I walked in the door with with Gruen and Josh and Griff, mid last year was, if they pick a brand and it doesn't work, if we invest in something, they give us advisory shares, we do a revenue share, whatever, and that company ceases to exist, which it will, this will happen. We've given up cash in hand, right? That's a huge deal. At this age, that's cash that they need to live, that pays their, that pays their rent and pays for their food in their life. They can't post something else in that vertical for who knows how long. They can't post something in that vertical. And then further than that, they can only promote a few brands without diluting their brand. And there's
a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk with you guys and with Kevin Durant. It's no risk.
Our risk tolerance is much lower in this space in terms of what we can post and promote on social media. So we are forced to innovate and we're forced to drive value to those brands behind the scenes, and that's what we're doing with Animal Capital.
And I find it very interesting. I'm like forgetting. I don't want to read like word for word in the article here, but I read something that Josh and I think it was Gruen where it was come to by, was it maybe Red Bull or something like that? It was an energy drink, and they decided not to do it, but they decided to do their own.
Yep.
That is a huge risk. That is also a lot of balls because they believe in themselves. And I felt like that must have been one of the reasons why you wanted to jump with them, because there's always about content coming out and the content's great. But if you believe in your shit, you believe in the stuff you want to do and believe the future, that had to have been one of like the reasons why you wanted to go there and work with these guys.
Yeah. It was, and Annie's a good product. It actually tastes good, which is, honestly, I thought it was going to taste like ass, and it legitimately tastes good. And as you probably people saw that listen to this, that they just, we just secured a distribution deal with ShopRite. But what attracted me to the guys when I started was, and I think I've spoken to you about this offline, but we started doing meetings with founders early on, like before I had any formal relationship with them, just to go through the deals that we're seeing in the backlog, like the pile of shit that had stacked up, to see if is there anything here. The guys were on time. They were awake and alert. They were engaging with founders, and they were not just reacting. They were being proactive and providing ideas to those founders about the ways that they can interact with those businesses. And they did it so many. They impressed me so many times consecutively that I remember saying it to my best friend Chase, like, because he was like, "Are you sure these kids are like in it for the long haul? Like,
Right.
you're getting married to them." I said, "I have no choice but to believe them. I literally have no choice but to believe them, because all they have done is walk the walk, and all Gruen does is walk the walk." I mean, the Josh Richards, Griffin Johnson, Noah Beck PR machine that Michael Gruen has created, that is literally like, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Dark on Netflix, but it's like this giant antimatter ball that just like spills amazing press everywhere. But it's because the hard work is in it. And so 2 weeks ago, it was announcing our production company with Mark Wahlberg. And 2 weeks before that, it was us taking over the legacy brand and Silly Bands. And this week, it's Animal Capital. Obviously, this is a very big announcement, and they can't all be this big. But
right.
and now it's a we, because now that I'm a married couple with them, we refuse to not be taken seriously.
That's how you have to go about it. And it's like goes back to the point we're talking about, how can people take TikTokers seriously? And it's like you're doing deal after deal after deal. And like this one was the biggest one you've done so far, right? And I mean, like the BFF podcast with Portnoy at Barstool is a huge one to promote who Josh is. I mean,
it's a temple for sure.
Right. Like the promoting Josh isn't that hard to do, because he's all over the place. He's on WFAN. He's on the BFF podcast. He's doing everything. He's hitting all age groups, which unfortunately the radio side of it is not that young, but I know what the fan is doing. They want to bring the young audience over there. But I think what's so interesting is that this, from what I'm like looking at, like now people are going to start taking you guys even more serious from what this new news coming out. And I mean, like you have investors that are working with you guys. They're like gigantic names, like the Winklevoss twins. It's huge. I know you know, but like the Scaramucci's of the world. You have co-founders. You have the founder of Android, the CEO of TikTok, and the founder of Tinder.
Yeah,
all working with you.
And I mean, listen, there's two pieces of that. One is it was a journey and a slog, right? Like the BFFs podcast was like a huge tent pole. Doing Carton on WFAN, that's another tent pole. Going and doing the Silly Bands deal and like sort of like letting people know where we're at. That's a big tent pole. Previously, Annie Energy. That's another thing where it said, okay, take us a little bit more seriously. Take us a little more seriously. And the Mark Wahlberg thing, I think was a big turning point.
Huge.
And what's funny is he has one of the most unassailable reputations in Hollywood. I think that people, anyone that knows anything about movies and really even sports knows that Wahlberg gets up at like 3:45 in the morning and is like grinding in the gym. He founded freaking F45 so that he could grind even harder in the gym.
Right.
And he goes out and my understanding, I think this is all true, but I think he most mornings he'll go out and play 18 by himself. I mean, he has one of the
human.
He has a pristine reputation as a family man, great actor, hard worker, good businessman. I've had LPs, that's the turning point here. Is this is all stuff where we put ourselves at risk. Now other people are putting themselves financially at risk, and I have a fiduciary obligation to invest their money the best way that I know how. People have said to me on LP calls, LP meaning the investors of the fund, I decided to take this call because Wahlberg's doing business with you. I've had at least 7 people say that to me. And so each of these things has built to the animal capital announcement. And I don't think any of them could have gone in a different order. This is the PIMDOTs.
It's not that bad to have Wahlberg on your side. That name floating around doesn't hurt. I think I just want to say congratulations. Oh, go ahead with that.
Oh, I was just going to tell one quick story that is idiotic but is fun.
I'm here for it.
So I was reintroduced to the Winklevoss twins at the beginning of all this, right when I started with the guys, as we started looking at investments with them, especially in the crypto space. And we were talking, and I said, it's funny, like we've met a couple of times, and they're like, oh, like we meet everybody, like we know a lot of people. And I said, no, I'm pretty sure you remember. And they're like, okay. and I go on to there's a karaoke bar in New York City called Baby Grand, which right now is closed, but I think it's coming back. It's about 350 square feet total, but that's the entire bar, like including the actual bar space, packed in like sardines. And my best friend is about 2.5 inches taller than the Winklevosses and sang Unwritten, like standing up on the bar, and has an excellent singing voice. His name is Dwight Tarwater. And so I recounted that story to them, and they're like, "Oh, the giant guy that was screaming Natasha Bedingfield. He was the man. Now we remember meeting you." And so while it is a lot of serious investing, there is a good amount of fun in games. And the Winklevoss twins are, in fact, you heard it here first, pretty big karaoke enthusiasts.
That is a hell of a story. See, those are the stories. I mean, you probably got tons. So because you've met the Winklevoss twins, Wahlberg, all these big time CEOs. So you must have learned something from them. But I want to ask you, and this is now call back to what we talked about 5 minutes ago with Rich Kleiman. Rich, I mean, I know, of course, who Rich is. Amazing businessman. Sports and business. He's kind of like the gold standard now.
Yeah.
What makes him that idol of yours? Why do you look up to him so much?
We'll see if Rich listens to this or not. I might text it to him. I've been so like blessed in the last even including my time at Warner Media, to get to talk to Conan O'Brien and Bill Simmons and Joe Montana and like ridiculous freaking people that I have wanted to talk to for my entire life.
Right.
This is actually a little bit funny because I have a Hall of Fame thing in my house, or a Wall of Fame, and it's right beside us, right here. Got some Charles Barkley, some Jerry Seinfeld, some good folks on the wall beside us. I was never nervous until I talked to Rich Kleiman. I was good. I was ice cold, fine, until I got on the phone with Rich Kleiman, and I was like, oh my God, like I don't know if I can speak. He is exactly what I wanted to be when I left college at Cornell to go to Goldman and thought about moving to banking. And Kevin's career was really sort of taking off from being like the skinny Seattle Supersonics player, the franchise moving to Oklahoma City. And Rich was the guy that said, like, Kevin, like, let me take you on this outside of basketball journey with me. Where, he used to say on podcasts over and over again, he wanted to be the president of the Knicks. His job now is bigger than being the president of the Knicks. 35 Ventures is literally it's not a bigger name. More people know who the Knicks are, but among the sports world, like, within the sports world, people know who Rich Kleiman is. And it is because more than anything else, he had Kevin's back alongside his own. It was never about number one. It was number one and one with Kevin. And a huge part of what this fund is, and the point of it, is showing talent that they need to align themselves with people that aren't just taking some piece from them, which is most people in their lives. And so that's what I set out to prove to Josh, Griffin, Michael at the beginning was, I'm not taking a paycheck. I'm not taking anything. We're going to work on deals together. And when the economics work, they work. And Rich took that same approach, and he built really, really slowly at his own, to his own sacrifice, to building what it is today. And so I continue to look at him as my number one role model.
Well, it sounds like this kind of go on the same path here. It sounds like it, because I remember.
Knock on wood.
I'm knocking on wood too, dude. I'm knocking on wood because I remember listening and reading stuff about Rich and how he started his career with Kevin. And it was like, look, we're going in, but I want you to know I got your back. I got your back. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about all of this. And if we go in together, we'll do great things. And just from what I'm hearing from you and your relationship with the boys, sounds like the same thing. Now, just can you translate it like what Rich Kleiman does? It sounds like you're getting there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all honestly thanks to Michael. The reality is that Michael is a fucking genius, which anyone that talks to him for 5 minutes knows. He loves super, super hard. He works super, super hard. I think that together there's very, very little that we can't do. He just continues to raise the bar on me and on himself. And, we push each other in such different ways. And I think you've heard me and Michael like bicker in a clubhouse room, like, an old married couple.
Right.
And that's like the reality. That's the reality of like our friendship and our best friendship and our business relationship is like deep, like I keep saying like, but core rattling honesty.
This now goes to my next question. What brought you over to them? Where did the relationship start? Who told you, hey, why don't you give these guys a call? Was there lunch? Let me hear about it.
This is a good story. I'm going to take you back a few years. I quit Goldman Sachs in 2017. So it's 4.5 years ago. I decided to go on a soul seeking mission in Japan just by myself. I'd never traveled by myself. I think I cried on the plane because I was so nervous and anxious about going on a trip alone for 2 or 3 weeks to Japan.
I would too.
And ultimately, I mean, truly, if you're going to number one, travel alone, it's worth it. You learn a lot about yourself. You also can do whatever you want. Like if you're tired and you don't want to sightsee, like take a freaking nap. If you want to have 6 beers and go to a Japanese baseball game, you can do that too. You don't have, you could do it's an amazing experience. I went out one night to a club by myself and you really didn't know anybody. Most of the bars in Japan are 8 and 10 seat bars. So they're kind of built for you to be able to make friends. So in that way, it's really advantageous to go there. But I went to a club because I just wanted to see it and see what the vibe was. And this pretty good looking Asian dude that was behind the DJ booth saw the one white dude in the giant crowd and kind of waved me up to the stage. And so I walked up on stage. We ended up staying out all night with this group of friends, getting ramen at 6 a.m. Didn't speak again for 10 months. I get an Instagram DM. Hey man, it looks like you run a lot. I've run 4 marathons and probably 40 half marathons.
Sure.
And he said, it looks like you run a lot. Can you send me a running plan? I'm running the Tokyo Marathon. I said, sure, dude. Like totally out of nowhere. I sent the running plan. I said, actually, I run a 200-mile relay race in Oregon every year. It's 12 people at the blast. Would you want to come? And he said, what are the dates? So I give him the dates. And without skipping a beat, our Instagram DMs don't even cover the whole screen yet. Like there's still some nice white space. He responds with a Delta flight confirmation from Tokyo Narita to Portland, Oregon. And I thought I'd ruin the race. I legitimately thought that I'd ruin Hooded Coast. I ruined my friends' experiences. But I have a lot of apologizing to do. And talk about anxiety. When this dude got off the plane, I thought,
yeah, you're freaking out.
I thought my friends were never going to run the race again, but we're coming up on our 8th iteration. And over the course of the years, we've actually raised over $1 million for the American Cancer Society, which is pretty cool.
Holy shit.
Anyway, we had an amazing time. He's a great guy. He's freaking brilliant. And we've maintained this friendship over the course of the last several years. He ultimately started a business with Michael Carter, who is, I think, a billionaire, who started Zynga and Playco. Playco just became another unicorn. They started another business together called Workco, which during COVID, his name's Ken O'Friel. He presented to the guys in the Sway House as an investment opportunity. And meanwhile, during COVID, I had been working with his fiance, a woman named Sumi Matsubara, who's kind of, I don't know, she's kind of like a Amy Adams, but a model. I don't want to call her Kim Kardashian in Japan, but she's kind of like Kim Kardashian in Japan.
Wow, that's
but
pretty big
really
stuff.
Good singer and actress.
Wow.
She's really, really, really famous for being famous, but she also is tremendously talented in everything that she does. I was helping her think about her business and about venture and all the ways that she could sort of be benefiting from her fame. And so the guys said, listen, Ken, like we want to do this, but we don't really know how to participate in this space in a way that doesn't dilute our brand. Like we've written a couple angel checks, but we need structure at this point. And so they literally FaceTimed me. I was at a dinner. I walked away from the dinner and it was Josh and Griffin, Ken and Michael Gruen. And I was like, holy shit. Hey guys. And I knew who Josh was. I think I'd seen a little bit of Josh's TikTok, but didn't have any idea what was going on. And the rest is history. I started fully on a consulting basis. And it's just been awesome. And that was 10 months ago.
That's crazy, man. I mean, the fact that my screen keeps changing all the time. So sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, that's pretty wild of a story. Went from like legit just all over the place. That first meeting though in person, how was that after, I'm sure it was Zooms and FaceTimes and then meeting everybody together? How was that?
It's so funny because I had just signed the formation documents for the fund before I went to LA. And in my head, I'm thinking, why don't I just put this off for another week? Like,
Right.
I'll just sign them in a week. Like, let me meet the guys first. And I figured, F it. Like, we came this far. I'm signing these things.
Are you
Um,
kidding? That doesn't seem
it was
real.
so. I mean, you want to talk about something that feels like it happened in a vacuum? I've been in a room physically with Josh Griffin and Michael half a dozen times over the course of a week. We've spoken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in the over the course of the last year, but we were basically legally married to each other before we were actually in a room together. And then all of a sudden, we're the cover story of the Hive newsletter for Vanity Fair. We had two stories in Business Insider just yesterday. None of this feels real. I feel so ridiculously blessed and lucky, and it is the culmination of a lot of hard work. But the butterfly effect from I'm going to go to a club alone, like who cares? Like I'll just wing it, whatever.
Whatever,
To
right?
the FaceTime years and years later with these social media stars who end up being everything they say that they are, to launching the fund and all the press and the actually getting to do my dream job, which is running this venture fund. It's completely absurd, and I woke up this morning like not thinking it was real.
Dude, I gotta say congratulations with all this. And one thing I did read about this article here. So Josh Rich says he wants to be a billionaire, right? And how
Working on it. I'm working really hard.
you're working on it, right? Do you really look? I mean, look, billion dollars is a lot of money. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a millionaire now. There's a lot of steps that have to go into place. Do you think that with the success you're having now and how it's going, he fulfill that dream?
If Josh continues to work as hard as he's working right now, and same goes for Michael, same goes for Griffin, and honestly, same goes for me.
Yeah.
If we can keep pouring oil on the fire, I don't see why not. Who who else on earth in the same month is launching a production company with if you said who's the most famous actor in Hollywood, he's Mark Wahlberg's one of the first three names, and is running a traditional GPLP venture fund with Rich Miner, Justin Kahn, the Winklevoss twins, Mitch Garber, David Sachs as LPs of the fund. No one. And so if the trajectory is towards billionaire with the B, I hope, and of course there's always a shoot for the moon, land on the stars, but I have no reason to think that we're not heading towards the moon.
What is the next thing you guys are doing that maybe you can tell me a little detail? That you don't, of course, you can't tell all the secrets because then you get in trouble. So, what is the next big thing you guys are trying to work
on? We have two companies we're incubating right now, which are they're not wildly innovative, but it's innovative for us to participate in the space. That's one and two. I think other than that, we have a couple of announcements that are going to come around the summer that are going to break people's brain in half. We're going to look back on this podcast and you're going to, actually, I think your first reaction is going to be oh, I interviewed a crazy person. Like I interviewed a lunatic. maybe I need to go back and delete this podcast entirely so people don't think I interviewed him. And then you'll realize that it's real.
Dude, I mean, that sounds fantastic. And what I find crazy is that you just, all this was on a whim and it turned into a masterpiece. And that that is like the definition of taking a risk. And that's what I think that's what Josh and the rest of his guys and you are telling younger kids out there, that to be successful, there's going to be times in life where you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be confused and you're going to have to take a risk where there can be a huge collapse and you could fail. But of course, failing is part of life, right? But taking a risk is so important. And I think you guys are showing exactly our age range, the 30 to 25 range, whatever, mid-20s. And you're also showing younger kids who are giant fans of these TikTok stars that if you want to be like them, you have to take risks and you have to work hard.
I think that the biggest thing is it's like a find what motivates you thing. And I know that's stupid advice because it's not actionable. But for me, and we talked about this before we came on air, but I spent a lot of COVID while I started, sort of working with the guys and everything else I was doing, raising money for a charity in New York called Harlem Grown, which was providing meals to at-risk kids who would normally be getting free meals from school.
Right.
It's actually what brought me closer to Sumi, to get Ken to then make the introduction. So a small chain in the chain link fence. But for me, that moment right before I went live with someone on Instagram, that right before I walk out on stage moment in a high school production, the feeling that I got right before I walked out, stepped onto the basketball court, is the same feeling that I had yesterday for refreshing Vanity Fair looking for the article. That's the feeling that drives me and motivates me and gets me pumped up and excited. For other people, it's other things, and I think that whatever that is, and I probably do 5-ish calls a week with people just to have this conversation about finding their niche. And
Sure.
My cousin's a junior in college, and I think that we all have those people in our life that you're close to them and you want to help them and pull them by the overalls up to where you are.
Sure.
But it is really just saying, waking up and saying, okay, here are the 10 things this is actually advice that my first boss at Goldman gave me, but there's 10 things I do every day. And they're, and for each person, 3 of them are probably about the same, but the other 7 are about this particular job and these types of personal interactions. It can be working with your hands. It can be working with your brain. It can be working, it could be artistic, or it could be engineering, or it could be, trade school, who knows? Try to get to as many of those 10 things that you like doing as possible, and figure out the things that are keeping you from to sort of keep you from doing that.
Kids, if you guys are listening right now and watching, rewind it, listen to that again, rewind it again, and then listen to it again. Because that is some great advice, man. Because, and you're young too, which is amazing, because you're also showing that you can fucking kill and still be in your 20s,
Yeah.
My last thing we'll talk about is just where you've come from working at Warner Media. So you have, and also Goldman Sachs, the 2 places I kind of want to talk about, but for Warner Media, so you've been around the media entertainment landscape. How much did that help you going into your next career? Which is what it is right now.
Hugely. I mean, it's totally, it's actually invaluable.
Right.
I say this all the time. It's really funny because I just had this conversation right before I came on here with a friend who was working at a big hedge fund and then moved to a smaller hedge fund, more responsibility, maybe more money, et cetera. And the reality for her was that she didn't have all of the the gadgets and all of the free drinks in the fridge, in the kitchen, or the cars home at night at the smaller hedge fund. And that infrastructure wasn't there to underpin her and to make her life easier. But it makes you hungry, and it makes you think about, okay, if I'm not doing it, somebody else is. Working at Goldman and working at Warner Media provided that sort of big infrastructure and showed, here are all the things that are being provided to me. And as soon as those things are taken away, it's how I feel now, right? I work for myself. I now technically I run a small business. It's not that small, but I run a small business. And so it's about thinking about, okay, what's not getting done? No one else is doing it. I'm doing it myself. So I always advise younger people, if they don't know what they want to do, to go to a bigger company before they go to a smaller company, because once you go to a small company, there's no going to a big company. The bureaucratic red tape and the bullshit's very, very real. And it's really hard to work backwards and get used to that. It creates a lot of anxiety. I'm trying to think, at Goldman, I think that, Taylor, I can only guess you probably have a similar experience. I went to college. A lot of people that I work with didn't go to college, but that first job that you have, that's the grind, where you're paying for your own apartment and you're paying for your own insurance. And I'm still on my parents' cell phone plan. My mom's downstairs. I'm home for Passover. She could probably hear me, and she's going to take me off of her cell phone plan.
Hey, dude, I'm right there with you, dude. You're not alone.
Yeah, you start paying for these things, and the people around you, because you're changing so much and you're going through this moment, become your best friends. Your college people, your high school, you have your high school bucket, your college bucket, and your first friends out of school bucket, and those people change your lives. And so for me, that was the biggest education I got. Those are the people that made this possible. The folks at Warner Media, my mentor Dave Beck, Shelley Kellner, Allison Farber, formed me into being an executive and taught me how to make decisions, and then not just how to make them, but how to fucking live with them. And most of the time, that's the hard part, because you make decisions in the first 10 seconds. You hear some idea or whatever, and then sometimes you accidentally work backwards into the conclusion that you want, but it's living with them and then adjusting to them where you really prove that you can be an executive. And working with Michael, you got to be freaking on top of your game and ready to make decisions. So I think, I keep thinking about what advice I would want to give to people that are listening. I would say, for me, it's big company before small company. If you want to be a small company person, just go and enjoy it. Also, every piece of information and every type of education you can get outside of your work, the first time that you can initiate a side hustle, do it. It will literally change your life to be active. You make, if you make $100,000 a year at your job and you make $3,000 a year in your side hustle, that $3,000 is going to mean so much more to you than that $100,000 does. And it teaches you what it really takes to be successful and comfortable for the next 20, 30 years.
I cannot agree more with the side hustle thing. Because look, you can make no money at your job, right? Your career job. And if you want to do extra stuff, your side hustle, right? And it's still part of your career and you're making $0 at it, you are building something other than the hustle part. You're not the job. You're building yourself, character, work ethic. And that's like exactly me. Like I've worked at many jobs, and then I have this podcast as my side thing, and it's made me think of different ideas and create other ideas even when I go back to work. And I'm sure you've had some situations like that as well. And I love how you brought up that first job out of college, right? Your first job in the real world, you build connections, build relationships, and it's like your first time getting kicked in the ass multiple times, and you have to be ready to go as soon as you walk in the door. That's exactly. I mean, like you were saying this, the shit you were saying legit resonated with me, which is hilarious because I thought of the same thing.
Well, the sports analogy is very clear. It's like there's practice with the team and there's games with the team. But if you want to get better, your side hustle is getting up in the fucking morning and getting your ass in the gym by yourself.
Right, man. Absolutely. And now
Kevin
all
Durant
that side
and Chris Brickley and Black Ops basketball. It's Drew Hanlon. It's those guys that are the extracurricular.
And all that side hustle and all those multiple jobs over and over again. And now you have the mothership, your prize is what you have right now. And I just want to say congratulations to you. And
hey man, there's always side hustles. I'm still side hustling.
I love that, dude. That's
good. That's going to be the next podcast interview. You're going to be excited. What we're side hustling on is just getting bigger.
Dude, you are always welcome on. I want you on again to talk about any sort of news you're breaking, because you're this. Like I've interviewed big names, but like, dude, the fact that your story resonates so much with me, and because it's not on the same level money wise or wherever the career is, it's like the passion that you have in it and where you got it, where you came from and how you got to where you are today. I totally respect you, man. And I can't wait to see what else you and the boys are going to be doing from here on out.
Well, I appreciate you.
Awesome, dude. I'm
always happy to come back on. You let me know when.
That is Marshall Sandman, guys. He is he's the man. Plug yourself, plug the company, plug everything, plug your socials.
At Marshall Sandman on Instagram and Twitter and Clubhouse. And go to animalcapital.co, if you want to learn anything more about the fund. There's a contact thing on there. But honestly, the best way to get to me, if you're interested, is a DM. I usually read them.
That's Marshall, man. Marshall, thanks, man.
Oh, please no LinkedIn messages ever. I'm trying to unmanifest LinkedIn messages. Take them away.
Take those away. Just on the gram. Just slide in his DMs. That's it. Thanks, Marshall. Hold on. I know you just watched that video. It's pretty good because you watched the whole thing. You made it this far. Just click that subscribe button. It's not that hard. I know you watched some other things, but was it as good as this? I don't think so, since you watched the whole thing. You enjoyed it. I know you did. You're nodding your head right now, and it's like, yeah, I enjoyed it, Taylor. I like it. I want to watch more. Click the button.